Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tera Vanachari Jamuna Tera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tera Vanachari Jamuna Tera Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Goranita, 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 Jaya Goranita, Jaya Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Baladev, Jaya Subhadra, Jaya Radha Giridhari Radha Giridhari Radhe Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaur Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnu Paramahansa Puracharya Astatra Shishimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. Namo Jai Om Vishnu Paramahansa Puracharya Astatra Shishimad Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Shri Prabhupada. Om Shri Shri begin from. Hare Krishna, everybody. So we will read from Srila Prabhupada Leela Mehta first, one page, before we read our Bhagavatam verse for the day. So we are the chapter entitled Swami Invites the Hippies. And his master Subramania, he's speaking. But Prabhupada, a lot of responsible citizens in San Francisco were very happy that Swami Bhaktivedanta was working amongst the young people. The young people at that time were searching and needed somebody for a very high caliber who would take an interest in them. and would and who would say, you should do this and you should not do that. The consensus was that no one could tell the young people what to do because they were completely out of hand with drugs and so forth. But Swamiji told them what to do, and they did it. And everyone was appreciative, especially the young people. Harsha Rani, just from a medical standpoint, doctors didn't know what to do with people on LSD. Police and the free clinics in the area could not handle the overload of people taking LSD. The police saw Swami Ji as a sudden refuge. Michael Bowen. Bhaktivedanta had an amazing ability through devotion to get people off drugs, especially speed, heroin, burnout, LSD cases, all of that. Haidas. The police used to come with their paddy wagons through the park in the early hours of the morning and pick up run-away teenagers sleeping in the park. The police would round them up and try to send them back home. The hippies needed all the help they could get, and they knew it. And the Radha Krishna temple was certainly a kind of spiritual heaven. Kids sensed it. They were running, living on the streets, no place where they could go, where they could rest, where people were not going to hurt them. A lot of kids would literally fall into the temple. I think it saved a lot of lives. There might have been a lot more casualties if it hadn't been for Hare Krishna. It was like opening a temple in a battlefield. It was the hardest place to do it, but it was the place where it was most needed. Although the Swami had no precedent for dealing with any of this, he applied the chanting with miraculous results. The chanting was wonderful. It worked. Srila Prabhupada knew that only Krishna consciousness could help. Others had their remedies, but Prabhupada considered them more patchwork. He knew that ignorantly identifying the self with the body was the real cause of suffering. How could someone help himself? What to speak of others if he hadn't known who he was? If he didn't know what the body was, only a covering of the real self, the spirit soul, which could be happy only in his original nature as an eternal servant of Krishna. Understanding that Lord Krishna considered anyone who approached him in a virtuous person, and that even little devotional service would never be lost and could save a person at the time of death. Srila Prabhupada had opened his door to everyone, even the most abject runaway. But for a lost soul to fully receive the balm of Krishna consciousness, he would first have to stay a while and chant, inquire, listen, and follow. As Allen Ginsberg had advised 5,000 hippies at the Avalon, the early morning kirtan at the temple provided a vital community service for those who were coming down from LSD and wanted to stabilize their consciousness or re-entry. Allen himself sometimes dropped by in the morning with acquaintances with whom he had stayed up all night. So Prabhupada Leela Ki. Now we will be reading from Bhagavatam. Today we have a reading from Canto 4th, chapter 29 and verse 39 and 40. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Yatra Bhagavata Rajan Sadhavo Vishadasaya Bhagavad Gunanu Kathana Ravana Vyagrachitasa Yatra Bhagavata Rajan Sadhavo Vishadasaya Bhagavad Gunanu Kathana Ravana Vyagrachitasa Yatra Bhagavata Rajan Sadhavo Visadasaya Bhagavat Gunanu Kathana Ravana Vyagra Chetasa. Yatra Bhagavata Rajan Yatra Bhagavata. Uh, I will read verse number 40 also, and then we'll do word translation. Tasmin Mahamukharita Madhubik Charitra Piyus Ashesha Sarita Parita Sarvanti Taye Bibyanti Avitruso Nirpagada Karnais Tatna Prashanti Asana Tad Bhaya Soka Moha. Word to word translation, please repeat after me. Yatra, where? Bhagavata, great devotees. Rajan, O king. Sadhava, saintly persons. Visadha Asaya, broad-minded. Bhagavat, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Guna, the qualities. Anukathana, to regularly recite. Ravana, to hear. Vyagra, eager. Chetasa, whose consciousness. Tasmin, there. Mahat, of great saintly persons. Mukharita, emanating from the mouth. Madhubit, of the killer of Madhudevan. Charitra, the activities of the character. Piyusha, of nectar. Shesha, surplus. Sarita, rivers. Parita, all around. Travanti flow, the all of them. Ye they who Ibanti drink Avitrisha without being satisfied. Nirpa, O king, Gadha attentive, Karnai with the ears, Na them, Na never, Prashanti touch, Asana hunger, Prit thirst, Bhaya fear, Soka lamentation, Moha illusion. Now translation purport by Sripapati. My dear king, in the place where the pure devotees live, following the rules and regulation, and thus purely conscious and engaged with great eagerness in hearing and chanting the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in that place, if one gets a chance to hear the constant flow of nectar, which is exactly like the waves of a river, one will forget the necessities of life, namely thirst, hunger and thirst, and become immune to all kinds of fear, lamentation, and illusion. Purport. The cultivation of Krishna consciousness is possible where great devotees live together and constantly engage in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. In a holy place like Vrindavan, where many devotees constantly engage in chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. If one gets the chance to hear from pure devotees in such a place, allowing the constant flow of the river of nectar to come from the mouths of pure devotees, then the cultivation of Krishna consciousness becomes very easy. When one is engaged in constantly hearing the glories of the Lord, he certainly rises above the bodily conception. When one is in the bodily conception, he feels the pangs of hunger and thirst, fear, lamentation, and illusion. But when he is engaged in hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, he transcends the bodily conception. The word Bhagavad Gunanu Kathana Shravana Vyagra Chetasa, meaning always eager to find the place where the glories of the Lord are being heard and chanted. In chanted is significant in this word. A businessman is always eager to go to a place where business is transacted. Similarly, a devotee is very eager to hear from the lips of liberated devotees. As soon as one hears the glories of the Lord from the liberated devotees, he immediately becomes impregnated with Krishna consciousness. This is also confirmed in another verse. Tatam prasanga mama virya samvedo bhavanti hritkarna rasayana katha तज्जौसनात् आश्रपवर्गवत्मनि श्रद्धारतिर्भक्ति अनुक्रमिष्यति. In the station of pure devotees, discussion of the pastime and activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very pleasing and satisfying to ear and to the heart. By cultivating such knowledge, one gradually becomes advanced on the path of liberation, and thereafter he is freed and his attraction becomes fixed. Then real devotion and devotion service begin. In the association of pure devotees, one becomes attached to hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. In this way, one can cultivate Krishna consciousness. As soon as this cultivation is advanced, one can become faithful to the Lord, devoted to the Lord, and attached to the Lord, and thus one can quickly attain full Krishna consciousness. The secret of success in the cultivation of Krishna consciousness is hearing from the right person. A Krishna conscious person is never disturbed by the bodily necessities, namely eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. We'll read translation again. My dear king, in the place where the pure devotees live, following the rules and regulation, and thus purely conscious and engaged with great eagerness, hearing and chanting the glories of the personality of Godhead in that place, if one gets a chance to hear the constant flow of nectar, which is exactly like the waves of the river, one will forget the necessities of life, namely hunger and thirst, and become immune to all kind of fear, lamentation, and illusion. Om Jnana Jala Shalaka Chakshu Alamita Mena Tasmay Shri Guru Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, everybody. So what a beautiful verse, and yeah, very, very beautiful. And right now, we are in a part of Bhagavatam where we know we've been hearing this pastime going on between Narad Muni and Prachina Bhari or Puranjana, and it's been going on for quite a few chapters. And Narad Muni was giving King Prachina Bhari the example of Puranjana, and yeah, he with his mystic power, Narad Muni showed King Prachina Bhari that what he has been doing so far and how many bodies he had taken, and all. And as a king, he was very, very attached to perform, but he was very attached to performing all the yagyas, and he also showed him like how all the animals he has been sacrificed in these yagyas, and how these animals are just waiting for him to die, and when he leave this body, they're just waiting for him. So basically, Narad Muni have spoken so much just to come to this point, what he's saying now, just to come to the point of the importance of hearing from the right sources and the importance of devotional service. So now he is coming to the point why he was explaining all that thing to King Prachina Bhari. And Narad Muni also said, like, because the soul, he was explaining the soul is taking all these different bodies, but actually for the soul, there is no happiness and no suffering, because when we identify with the body, then we are, thinking that we are happy and we are distressed. But actually, for the soul, that happiness and suffering doesn't exist, because the soul is different from the body. But because we are so absorbed in bodily conception, we think like now body is suffering and we have some difficulties suffering, and when we are having some good time, we think we are enjoying and we are happy. But actually for the body, there's no pain and pleasure. And so even though when we try to preach, and when we are trying to when we are speaking Bhagavatam and philosophy to someone, we tell them that, hey, there's a lot of suffering in the material world, and there's no happiness, and that's true. There's more suffering in the material world than the happiness. So suffering is life is mainly full of suffering. So the little bit of happiness and pleasure we get is like when somebody is drowning and he's like constantly trying to come above the water. And when he comes a little bit above the water, he gets a little bit of relief and he thinks that's, he's happy. But actually, he's constantly drowning. So that little bit of coming, like when person managed to come out of the water and take a deep breath, that person thinks he's happy. And so I was saying, like when we're talking to people, we said it's suffering, but they can put an argument forward. If the suffering is real, then so-called happiness is also real. Because if you're experiencing suffering, then we are also experiencing happiness also. But what we are Narad Muni is trying to explain to King Prachina Bhari, actually both suffering and happiness belong to the body, and the soul has nothing to do with it. The soul, the real, as we know, the nature of the soul is spiritual, and the real identity is eternal servant of Krishna. So here Nitya Krishna Das, that no matter which body we have taken and we are going to all the different bodies, like our real identity that never changed. We are always eternal servant of Krishna. And when we're going through these different bodies, especially like in human form, like then when we identify ourselves with the body, then we have, yeah, all the other different bodies, we start to identify themselves also related to our body. For example, like, we play different roles, like we are, friends to somebody, we are husband, father, like son, daughter. Yeah, so these different bodily, we start to identify ourselves and others. But actually, all those relationships are temporary. They are not eternal. A example I want to give in this regards is like, I don't know if anybody here have traveled in the train in India, especially. Has anybody here traveled in India train? Okay, good. Quite a few people. So when you're traveling in India, especially the journey is long. If you're going from one, let's say from North India to South India, the train takes some time, 2-3 days. You are in the train for 2 to 3 days. I've done that a couple of times. And when you're in the train compartment, you have, like other people, I think around 10, 12 people sitting in the same compartment. And because you're there for such a long time, sometimes, you start to develop a little bit of, like you talk to them and there's a little bit of like friendship and some people, let's say they're not going all the way where you're going, like they have different station and they hop off. But all that, for whatever duration you were with them, you have developed that relationship, but you will never see them again. The chances are very highly unlikely that you will meet that person again. And, because, Similarly, when we are going through the different phases of our material body, we have these different relationships. Like sometimes we meet somebody only stays with us for some, like we only meet somebody for, a day or two, sometimes weeks, sometimes a year, a couple of years, sometimes like long time, like, ever since we born and we die, that person is there with us. Like sometimes like we hopped out on the early train station, but that person is still in the train, but actually that's all temporary. We know that is not real. And the point I'm trying to make here is then when we identify all those relationships, and then we also try to, during those relationships, when we acquire something, like we have a home, we have, a car and other paraphernalia, then it gives us a false sense of illusion or, or ego. But as actually, that's all, we're not the proprietor of anything, but we think we are the proprietor. It is like, like another example is like in a dream, the dream is not real, but we identify ourselves with so many things. And but when we wake up, we realize like, hey, that was just dreaming. So in one sense, all the relationship, everything, surrounded by all the people, it's just a dream. And I just want to, just recently I was talking to one of my friends. He's a good friend of mine, and right now he's going through a little bit of tough time in his life. He's been married, but I think he's going through the divorce phase, and he has kids and stuff. And he moved out of his place where he was staying with his wife recently, quite recent things. And he was saying like, because he went and he was looking for a rental apartment. And when he went and he was applying for the rental apartment, he said there was a section where you need to put your emergency contact details next of kin. So he was saying like, but yeah, great realization. He was saying like, when I looked at that part, it hit me for some time. I was just staring at it because I was thinking like, actually, I don't have any next of kin. I don't have any name to write down here. I know the only person I knew was, my ex-wife, but now from other families and nobody's here. They're overseas, and so like, yeah, it hit me really, really hard, and I didn't know whom name should I put down there. So I thought that was a really great realization and the reality of life. As Prabhupada also, when he was in Jaladuta, and he wrote that poem, and Prabhupada has written that after all these years, in my life, all I have is a list of people, the list of people, but where all they gone, they're all gone. But nobody's with me apart from just a list of these people, just I only have their names. So these kind of things, it makes us think, actually, yeah, that's the reality of life. We came alone in this world, and one day we will go and we'll have nobody. Only person, the only thing which is never leave, only Super Soul Krishna, he never leaves us alone. He's always there, no matter what we are going through, what kind of bodies we are going through. And and I was giving the train example, like, even for a short amount of time, all these relationships, we can develop like so much attachment, and when we are separating from somebody, it's really, really hard, like, to go through that separation. So imagine, because Krishna is our eternal friend, is our father, is our mother, our lover, and he never leaves us alone. So how much, when we are trying to go away from Krishna, when the person has no knowledge about his real identity, how much, yeah, like, obviously Krishna is Supreme Personality of God, is transcendental, but still he cares about us. So how much, yeah, difficult it would be for him when a soul is in forgetfulness of Krishna. So, yeah. So now Nad Muni have, I was saying like, he has explained all these, given so many examples, Prajna Bhai, but come to the point just now to emphasize on the importance of devotional service and importance of hearing, because importance of hearing is something very crucial in devotional service, which kind of reminds of an, yeah, when we, it helps us to come out of our sleeping stage and illusion, and then we remember what our real identity is. So he's saying that like how from whom to hear. He's talking about hearing from the right source, from pure devotees, from, whose mouth, like constant flow of nectar flowing, and it's never stopping. Example is given here, river. The river water is constantly flowing, As similarly, the nectar from the mouth of a pure devotee or pure devotees, out of pure devotees, is always constantly flowing. And the reason is because Krishna's pastime, Krishna is never ending, like it's always ever fresh and there's no end to it. And that is a reason like the flow which is flowing from the mouth of pure devotee is constant. It doesn't stop. And when like we hear so many classes from Prabhupada, and you every time like you had there watching this video, like interviews, everything, constant flow, constant nectar coming out of his mouth. There's not even can't say like Prabhupada wasn't talking about anything else, just mostly always talking about Krishna, and that is sign of pure devotee. Yeah, because a lot of the time, because being myself, like we just have a lot of other interesting topics to discuss, and sometimes it's hard to always talk about Krishna. We're just talking about all the other mundane things, but for pure devotee, he's always speaking about Krishna. And yeah, I was listening to one lecture by I think Indradumna Maharaj, and he was saying, he said there was a tape a recording came out some years ago, and the title of the tape was Best of Srila Prabhupada Lectures. Right? You have sometimes like a singer and a best of that particular singer's songs. But he was saying that his statement, best of Srila Prabhupada, is actually not correct, because everything which Prabhupada spoke about, everything Prabhupada gave, every lecture he gave was best. So as you can't like say, oh, this is not good, this is not good, because that's duality. But everything Prabhupada, every single word come out of his mouth was pure nectar. And yeah, so now the Bhagavatam is talking about hearing from the right source. The person would think like, where would I go to hear about Bhagavatam, especially, and hear from the right source? Where should I go? And that's why Prabhupada has created ISKCON. And so everywhere in the world, there's so many centers and so much opportunities we have to go and hear from the devotees. There's every single day Bhagavatam class has been going on, and people are speaking. So there's no excuse, And today we have ample of opportunities from here, from the right source, pure devotees. And now with the technology is also very helpful. We can use the technology in Krishna's service and hear that. But another, hearing from the right source, kirtan, and chanting, it is very important. And as we know, that's the Yuga Dharma, Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam. That's the Yuga Dharma, Kali Yuga. But actually, the more important than holy name, and in this verse has also been pointed, is the association of the devotees. So if we don't have the right association, if we are not in the right association of devotees, the chanting, Savanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu becomes very difficult. And we have seen even in Bhagavatam, great example of Bharat Maharaj, even he was in the stage of Bhav. But because at the last stage of his life, he didn't have any association of devotees, he fell down. And that is the importance of association of devotees. How, and I was saying Prabhupada have created these centers only because we have the right association. We can come together, we can chant, and we can read Bhagavatam. And because without the right association, in the right association, you can do everything. And that's why when we're in the association of devotees, sometimes like we feel, like, like it's like contagious. The association of devotees, if you invite, you automatically start to feel Krishna conscious. you feel like you're being purified. But when you go away and sometimes you're alone, you know how difficult Maya is. It becomes really, really just to do your, yeah, the student normal sadhana, it becomes really difficult. And the association of devotees also includes uh, by taking guidance and by hearing from them, and how, for example, like everybody of us, we might have some strong areas in our spiritual life, and some areas we're lacking. Like, for example, we might be good in our sadhana, but we're not so good in, we're struggling with service, or we're fully absorbed in doing a lot of service, but then struggling with our sadhana. We might be good in chanting, but we are struggling in reading. So I think in association with devotees, you should try to associate with devotees. For example, if you know somebody has a really strong taste of reading, to try, and you're struggling with reading, try to associate with that person and try to learn from them. Hey, how can, because when you associate with that person, it automatically, you will get infected and contagious, and you will automatically, you will help you to improve in that particular area. Similarly, if somebody is fully engaged in outreach, but we might be doing good, sadhana, but we are not doing an outreach, as I think Nad Muni in Bhagavatam says, like, I think, I don't remember, that some person, they are good in following the rules and regulations, but they don't preach. But there are other people, they are preaching, but they are not following the rules and regulations properly. But when you have the combination of both, that is actually very, very amazing. Yeah, so, and then if we do that, then one will forget the necessities of life, namely hunger, thirst, and become immune to all kinds of fear, lamentation, and illusion. And that is true. Like sometimes if you're nicely situated and we have the right association, you don't have any fear and you don't lament for anything, you know. But as when you see, like in our life, when we start to hanker and lament, that means we need to look out for association, and there's something needs to be worked on. And in Bhagavatam, we have great examples like Prahlad Maharaj. He has no fear, his Hiranyakashipu tried to kill him in many ways, but he was fearful, and he, even such a small boy, he didn't fear, had any kind of fear, and he was always constantly chanting, the Lord's name and glorifying Krishna. Similarly, hunger and thirst, a great example of that is Parikshit Maharaj, because the whole Bhagavatam, that's been spoken to Parikshit Maharaj, Sukhdev Goswami. So he sat down for 7 days without any water, without any prasadam. He was like sitting there for 7 days constantly. And not only him, Parikshit Maharaj, but all the great devotees, all the great sages who were present in that assembly, none of them had bring any drop of water, and they were all fully satisfied because they were hearing the constant flow of nectar which was coming out of Sukhdev Goswami's mouth. And this Parikshit Maharaj is the same Parikshit Maharaj who, I think, prior to when Bhagavatam being spoken, when he was out doing in the forest hunting for deer, he became so thirsty that he couldn't control himself. And just because he wanted some water, he put the dead snake on, on around the neck of that Rishi. So, but now, see, now he's like, he forget about hunger, thirst, and any other necessities of life. So that's a great example, how nectar and how this statement is true. And so if we are, but sometimes like for ourselves, like if you find it even, because Parikshit Maharaj is like, a great devotee, listen to Sukadeva Goswami speaking Bhagavatam for non-stop 7 days. For us, sometimes it becomes like really, really difficult to even an hour to listen Bhagavatam, and when we're sitting in the class, our mind is all over the place, and like we're thinking about Prashadam, and yeah, it's very, very difficult, you know. So that shows that we have a long way to go, and yeah, big, it's a long journey, and but we know the remedy, we know the medication. If we constantly applying that medicine, constantly hearing from the pure devotee's mouth, and we keep ourselves in a good association. Association is really important, as I said. Yeah, then I think we can get to the ultimate goal we are aiming for. And on that note, I'll stop here. And thank you so much for listening so attentively. And anybody have any correction? Anything else you'd like to add, please? No?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you very much for the wonderful class. Prabhuji, you mentioned that, that Parikshit Maharaj, he didn't drink or eat for 7 days. He's so rapt attention and absorbed in Srimad Bhagavatam. And my question is, what is it that is stopping us from being so rapt in attention to Srimad Bhagavatam? Is it that we're not following the process properly of hearing, or is it something else? Or is it that Parikshit Maharaj, because he knew he was going to leave his body in 7 days, he was just very, very focused, and he realized the urgent need for it. And that's why he was so focused on hearing for 7 days without eating or drinking. And why is it that we are not, why is it that I'm not so rapt in the attention of Srimad Bhagavatam with such enthusiasm?
Good question, Prabhu. So Prabhu is asking why Parikshit Maharaj, he was able to listen to Sukdev Goswami speaking and non-stop, and why it is a struggle for us. And I would say, obviously, Parikshit Maharaj is Mahabhagavat, pure devotee, and Sukdev Goswami too. He is a Nitya Siddha, and everything been going on, or is it just for the pastime? And we are Nitya Baddha, so, and we still have a lot of purificatory process to go through. Like, we are still going through a purification process, and yeah, I think that could be one reason. When you see the devotees who are in advanced stage of the bhakti, they can just sit down and just relish chanting and then hearing the association of devotees without thinking about any other things, right? And because they have applied the process properly, and then they have taken their daily dose, and that's the result. But I think in the beginning stage, it could be a challenge, yeah. But if we constantly, like, if we have the right association, then it has become easier. So when I think when in the association of devotees, it becomes easy, yeah. Even Bhagavatam, but when you're not in the right association, but you're saying when in Bhagavatam, but because I would say, yeah, I think purification, and there might be something we're not doing right. If anybody, I think, if anybody else would like to add something on it, what do you think? Yeah, I think it would be nice if any other senior devotees can add anything, because this is a very good question, and that's my understanding. Obviously, my understanding is quite limited. If anybody else has anything to add, yeah.
that his disciples did not have enough healthy fear of material language. So we don't actually have a healthy fear of it. Think that the material energy is something that we can control and enjoy still. So until we have that healthy fear of material energy, or want to actually feel something outside of it, or actually want to taste something outside, or actually want to transcend outside of it. Because generally what captivates us, traps us, and if we're distracted, is that distraction from taste that's outside of Krishna, which means we don't have a healthy fear of being distracted away from it. Because why? Because we don't actually appreciate it. We actually want to taste that nectar. So, as you said, the only way we can do that is by good practice and good pursuit, even seeking association with those who have things, by observing how they are living their life, just like the Goswamis. Otherwise, on our own,
should be afraid to palatable, not viral, for their health.
Hare Krishna. Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki.